I think the 70s and the early 80s are really what put Watford on the map. We had Elton, we had Graham Taylor.
The most amazing thing about having Elton John as a chairman was the worldwide fame that he had accrued up to that point. He was just another one of us. That was him and Graham Taylor's major achievement, really, in that they made everybody feel like they were part of the same thing.
The respect and love he had for the players from the 4th Division days was incredible, because you would think it would be the other way around, that the players would be in awe of Elton. He was a real football person, and as a chairman or owner, benefactor of a football club, he understood that the most important person at the club is the manager, Graham Taylor. And he gave Graham that respect to run the club in its entirety.
The way that we went up those divisions, completely unfashionable, different style of football being played. We had Luther Blissett, we had John Barnes, Kenny Jackett, all these great players.
It's crazy for a club to come through the divisions and then in its first season in the first division to finish in the runners-up position. It's almost unfathomable now. There's a story that's always done the rounds from the days that Graham Taylor called Elton John at the start of the season and said, whatever you do, don't book anything for FA Cup final day.
The whole period at Watford, but particularly the first 3-4 years, was a journey which I just expected to continue. And that was all down to Graham Taylor.
The semi-final was an amazing day. All the big cup wins that Watford had under Graham Taylor and Elton John, we'd always been the underdogs. Suddenly we find ourselves in the FA Cup semi-final, we're the favourites. It wasn't a tag that sat well with Watford fans.
We never approached the game in that way because Graham Taylor never ever allowed us to be complacent. So regardless of whether we played Liverpool or Plymouth, we would always approach it in the right way. However, it was such a difficult game.
The ball broke to Johnny Barnes on the left wing, and he just went on one of his runs down the left wing. And it was my job to try and catch up and get into the penalty box. And he delivered a cross, the perfect cross, for me to run onto and beat the keeper to it and head it into the net.
You have players like that who are so good in the air and so good at making space. I just had to put the ball in an area, and he knew that George would be on the end of it. So yes, it was a good cross, but I think that, you know, when you get the ball in the box, as I did with Ross Jenkins before, who's also 6'4", 6'5", it's a pleasure if you're a winger to play with players like that.
It was at the Watford end with all the Watford fans, so it was a special moment in my career anyway.
So whilst finishing second in the league was absolutely incredible, getting to the FA Cup final was probably a bigger achievement.
The cup final is special. FA Cup final always has been. If I think about growing up in Jamaica, you never saw much of football, but you see the FA Cup final because that's what they show on television. They didn't show much. So as I always said, as a single occasion, the FA Cup final in English football is the biggest occasion.
It put the club on the map. People could actually see the town really took to the football team in a way that I hadn't seen before in the lead up to the finals. There was bunting everywhere, flags everywhere. The atmosphere was absolutely incredible.
The day itself was unbelievable.
The noise when the teams came out, it seemed like the whole of Watford was there at the game.
It is an iconic image, the one of Elton John with his wife crying in the royal box. My dad have said to me after the game when he saw that footage back how he actually felt the same. He was overcome with emotion almost that Watford were playing in the FA Cup final.
I think, not just with the fans, but I think also with the players, we really got caught up with how special and unique the FA Cup final is, rather than thinking about, you have to win this game.
Johnny Barnes could have scored in the first 2 minutes.
Closing, Barnes is up at the far post.
I was on top of Everton. I think I had a good chance. I missed the header, then I had a chance right on the line, and I think the goalkeeper scooped it off. And I thought, well, okay, but we are going to win.
All I remember about it was that ball was bouncing around the edge of the penalty area and Graham Sharp turns and swivels and puts it in the bottom corner, and you just think, hang on, this isn't supposed to happen. We're not supposed to go behind. This is a game we're going to go and win.
By Graham Sharp.
A lot of the heads dropped. We didn't really create much the second half.
Graham Sharp waiting in the centre.
And then Andy Gray scored his second goal, which was a bit dubious, to say the least.
And Everton are 2-0 in the lead.
I work with Andy Gray now over in Qatar, and I tell him every time I see him, now, Andy, that would be a foul. He headed the ball out to the goalkeeper's hands.
I don't think any of us realised that it was going to be the end of the era that it was. and that things were going to change from there on in.
Graham left, that's why it fell apart. His whole ethos and philosophy was at the centre of the team, and when his replacement came in and started selling off some of our better players, it all very quickly unravelled.
With Graham Taylor, what we had was a family that believed in each other. And I believed, though I wasn't any more important than any of the other players, so although I'm not there anymore, Watford are still going to survive. And then, of course, it was a new Watford.
They very quickly changed tack, went for Dave Bassett as a manager.
It's a different philosophy, it's a different way of playing. Obviously, a manager brings in different ideas. And while I wasn't part of the Watford after 1987, I knew that Watford would have been different. The way Graham Taylor had us in the relationship that we had with the groundsman and with the tea lady and with everybody around there, that wouldn't be there anymore, that wouldn't be the same. It had changed.
After Dave Bassett had gone, the team just continued to flounder really, got relegated into second division and then trod water really in the second division for a long time.
But it was heartbreaking for me to watch Watford go through what they did.
The lasting memory from that cup final, as great a day as it was and as fantastic a day as it was, there is just that sense of it would have been the icing on the cake for that whole era to have won the FA Cup.
And who knows, here at Watford may well be back.
We did everything else except win something.
If you stand sort of below, just back off the halfway line, and you look at Wembley, as I was fortunate to look at it that day, and see 38,000 people of red and yellow. When you think that you've played a part in helping to create that, there aren't words to describe how you feel. And I think what I did say at the time, those 38,000 people just looked as if they were in heaven.
So Elton, when he first came back in '96, is to bring Graham Taylor back.
I would only have done it for this club.
Oh look, it was an incredible few years. To go back up in the way that we did in such a short space of time with few resources.
Watford hadn't seen scenes like it since 1984.
I think we probably overachieved, and I think it's well documented that the club didn't expect it.
And Mooney!
I think we won 12 of the last 13 games in that run-in, and that gave us the confidence to go into the playoffs. We knew in the playoffs we were going to win. We just wanted to play at Wembley and win at Wembley.
The manager had alluded to earlier in the season that Watford hadn't won on Sky TV on a live game. You know, we're thinking, well, if we're going to do this, we've got to, get rid of the bad luck surrounding the Sky games.
We worked tirelessly on set pieces.
Won the home leg 1-0.
The second leg was
A bit of a national lottery.
Extremely hostile.
nervy start.
Looking to get on the end of it, and he got attached to it, and it's come back off the post, and it's been turned in.
We were 1-0 down within a heartbeat. If I hadn't even got sitting down, because obviously there was a sub.
And it's probably one of the greatest Watford defensive performances of all time.
But Alec was absolutely outstanding.
Well, it is penalties.
You know, it was just the most gut-wrenching but exciting thing that I think I've ever seen at a Watford match.
I hated taking penalties.
I never hit a penalty as sweet as I did that night.
But he scores. Brilliant.
What did I want? It not to be me. That's all I wanted. The camera cuts to the manager, and the manager's got a bit of anxiety when I take a penalty.
He can take Watford a step closer if he scores, and he does. Oh no, it's saved! The disappointment falls on Holland, and it's Watford who are going to Wembley to play Bolton.
We were far from favourites in the final.
Then, being stood in the tunnel, I think we'd won the game then. We were really noisy. We stood against some international players for Bolton, and I don't think they quite knew what to make of us.
He said, look, you can't pick and choose when you're going to be successful, and the opportunity's there.
He didn't want us to let the supporters down. The supporters were everything to him.
37,000 Watford supporters packed into this famous old stadium this afternoon.
What a way to score a goal.
I was in a position for looking for the second phase of the play.
Set piece goal, he shut his eyes and he hoped for the best and it come off his shin. That's what I'm sticking with. Right, you know it come off his shin.
His latest effort.
You make an instinctive decision that, what can I do? Am I aiming for a top corner? No chance. You're aiming to try and make good contact and hit towards the goal.
Cleared by Todd. Right! What a stunning goal!
unreal moment. Next thing, I've got probably 6 or 7 people sat on top of me and sort of, hard to think about it without emotion now.
Probably one of the greatest goals ever scored at Wembley. I would argue that it's the greatest goal ever scored at Wembley. Second goal was amazing. I can really clearly remember the tackle in the centre circle because Alan Smart actually starts the move.
All Alan was cultured centre forward. He'll love me saying that as well.
Smart and Hosanna up with him. Alan Smart! Watford are in the Premiership for the first time in their history.
You've got 20 or 30 steps in your life that you don't really remember doing, and then you sort of come back into planet Earth, if you like.
I'd said to the players, when you get to Wembley and you win that game on May the 31st, you will experience things that you've never experienced in your life, and some of you will cry. And that was it. Tears myself.
And you wake up in your sleep, do you? Kennedy's Cross.
Sleep? What sleep? I ain't had any sleep.
Chelsea go to Watford FC.
The Premier League's a machine upon itself. We got squad numbers with your name on the shirt for the first time. It was a brilliant time.
Chance! Yes! This is the romance of the Premiership. Watford, no respecter of reputations, have beaten Chelsea.
It was pretty much the same dressing room. So there's still the same guys from League One and the Championship that had got back-to-back promotions. We were just Graham Taylor's Watford, and let's see how far this thing can roll.
We were always going to struggle to compete. We didn't have the budgets of the other clubs.
We were on quite a thin squad anyway, but struggled more with injury, and on reflection probably didn't give a true account of ourselves as a team.
In the win against Chelsea, I injured my knee and missed 7.5 months. So I had to watch the lads struggle. I was probably one of the louder players and one of the motivational players in that dressing room, and I wasn't in the dressing room. I couldn't help the lads, and that was the hardest thing for me.
Unfortunately, there wasn't enough wins, and the season was disappointing.
And the important thing is, yes, we did get relegated. At least we broke a record, right?
If you could guarantee any way to get promoted up to the Premier League, and you could guarantee it, you'd do it via the playoffs. It is the best feeling in this world.
Infectious enthusiasm is a key phrase to describe Adrian Boothroyd.
Can he emulate getting in the Premiership? I think so. Otherwise I wouldn't be doing it.
The one thing I remember about that team in that season more than anything else was a sense that players there were having the season of their lives. There were players that hadn't particularly achieved very much up to that point, and some of them maybe didn't achieve very much after that season. But just in that season, it was almost a perfect storm.
We had these players that had a lot of hunger and a lot of wanting to make Watford Football Club great and get us into the Premier League.
And a manager that completely believed in them, completely trusted them, and gave them that confidence to go out and win games of football.
The season started and we were favourites to get relegated that year. You know, Adi Boothroyd had just about rescued the club from relegation the season before.
But the key standout players were really that front three of King, Henderson and Young.
All of a sudden, there was this big run towards the end of the season, and we ended up going into the playoffs as the informed team.
The Premiership is actually quite close.
Crystal Palace wasn't a very happy hunting ground for us.
We had lost twice that season to Palace in the regular season. Without doubt, it was a little bit of sort of intrepidation, really. The first leg away at Selhurst Park, we just battered them, absolutely battered them. 3-0 it was. It was just constant onslaught. I don't think I had too many saves to make, but the lads were brilliant. And that was it. The semi-final was already wrapped up after that first game.
A colossal performance from Adi Boothroyd's Watford.
The Leeds playoff final was one of the greatest games in Watford's history. My biggest fear with that playoff final was that we were going to screw it up then.
I remember being in the tunnel before the game. Leeds were already stood there and the lads were just bouncing. We had big Danny Shittu jumping up and down and screaming, Jordan Stewart screaming. Everybody was just making so much noise. It must have been intimidating for anyone. And I remember looking at some of the Leeds players and they almost kind of looked at us as if to say, like, what are these guys on? At first they must have kind of, tried to give it a bit of a smile, like, idiots. But then after a while they realised that we meant business.
Leeds United against Watford.
That was another thing that Adi was huge on, the psychology of it all. And I think we had won that game in the tunnel before the game. Jays, obviously it was a corner. The burst of relief and burst of emotion when he scored, just kind of chucked his whole body onto it. All you can see is like yellow one side just erupting and everybody jumping up and down. The goal that gave me most joy was the second goal. It was kind of a weird one. It took a deflection, looped up, hit the post, hit Neil Sullivan's hand. That was almost like, you can almost sort of taste it. You're almost there.
And here comes the Premiership. Henderson scores.
So for us to go from being the underdogs, the team that were most likely to get relegated, to winning in the playoffs, it will always live long in my memory.
Pinch yourself, Watford fans. You're in the Premiership.
Premier League's a different level. Almost straight away, the difference was just incredible.
I think we had a little bit more of a feeling that it would be different. We've gone in, we've got Ashley Young, we've managed to get Ben Foster back on loan for a second season. We still had Marlon King. The start of the season, we actually only lost 3 of the first 10 games.
I found that Watford could start a season really well and then it completely tail off towards the end. And we've had a few seasons where that's been the case. Can never explain it, it's just a Watford thing that we do.
Once the losing run started in the autumn, the wheels very quickly came off.
Fantastic goal by Robin van Persie.
And I think Boothroyd didn't quite get it right.
We obviously played a very direct style of football, and when you're coming up against players who are so much quicker and so much faster, better technique, it's very hard.
We weren't prepared, but the support didn't wane. People didn't complain.
It's all over for Watford and for Adi Boothroyd, relegated to the Championship.
They complained when we were relegated and for the few seasons that followed. But it was great to be back up there.
Wow, with Zola it was a hell of a journey, wasn't it?
I suppose if you look at sides being within the image of their managers, then that Watford side was very much in Zola's image.
Deeney, Chalobah.
All out attack. If you're going to score 4, we're going to score 5.
They were playing good football, scoring spectacular goals.
When you look back now and you look at the calibre of player that we had, it was ridiculous.
And that course today is to try to secure automatic promotion here this afternoon.
All we had to really do was beat Leeds.
We all expected them to get across the line on the final day.
And I was at that game, and it was a complete horror show.
But yeah, that Leeds game was mental. And one of them games was just like every major decision kept going against us. Got sent off, yeah. No, so I'm over it now.
Almunia was injured. Jonathan Bond, the number 2 goalkeeper, started the game, and he'd hardly started a game all season. And then he got injured.
Ooh, and Bond clattered by Anya.
It's like our 3rd choice goalkeeper comes on.
Could be Jack Bonnet.
And he had a shocker.
Oh, he's pulling on with a chance, a gift of a goal! And he's taken it!
I kind of had my Paul Gascoigne moment where I just wanted it that bad that I was like, just kicked Michael Brown twice.
Yes, but he lost out to Brown, and he was caught very, very late indeed by Deeney, and his afternoon is going to draw to a close here.
They weren't even bad tackles, but they were just stupid ones that you could avoid.
Another Watford goal will send them
I remember Leeds scoring, and it was like a shot from outside the box.
Oh, and he's got bottom out! It's an absolute heartbreaker for the young goalkeeper.
But I just remember thinking, we're going to end up doing this the hard way again. And true enough, we did. But then it led to one of the greatest games in Watford's history.
And so much at stake for both teams ahead of these next two games, where a place at Wembley is up for grabs.
Yeah, I ended up watching the first Leicester game in the studio at Sky.
Alongside me this evening, the Watford striker Troy Deeney, who has 19 goals this season, but misses out tonight.
I think what you want from the first leg of any playoff, if it's away from home, is you just want to still be in with a very good chance going into the second leg.
I remember Vidra had gone on like a bit of a goal drought. I can't remember how many games it was, but he missed a lot of chances in that game as well.
When Leicester got the 1-0 win, you felt that they'd probably be happy with that. That would be something decent to take down to Vicarage Road.
First leg belongs to Leicester City.
At the end of the game, when they asked you how it's going to be,
did the nerves get the better of your team?
And I was like, it'll be all right because I'm back. I think that's just pressure of football in general. I don't think it's because of the playoffs. I just think we're away from home. They know if we score, we can change the whole tie.
I remember it quite vividly. Crowd are up for it from the start. You can tell the place is buzzing. It was a really, really nice day as well. You felt summer had arrived.
You wonder, though, whether there has ever been a more significant meeting than this one here in Hertfordshire this Sunday lunchtime.
Probably, if I'm honest, I went into that game thinking I'd probably expect Watford to find a way to do this.
For Vidra! Oh, goodness me! He's back!
I felt when that went in that was going to be what we'd be talking about afterwards. An absolutely sensational volley.
Literally, I think within 2-3 minutes they scored.
Nugent! He's done it again!
But we started the game so well, it's like, oh, it's going to come, it's going to come. Me and Vid's the 1-2.
And in the return from Deeney, Vidra!
And at that point, it's like, right, let's go to extra time.
I've been commentating for over 20 years now, and I've never known a minute of football like that.
Knockout, he's got beyond Briggs, still going. Knockout goes to ground as Cassetti leads on him. Penalty! That is a massive decision.
When the penalty was given, you just accept that Leicester are going to go through at that point.
There has been a penalty. I think the awarded or has it. Now, let's find out. It's drama anyway. Johnny Phillips.
They came to me live.
Absolutely huge moment of controversy if a penalty's been awarded here, because the Watford players are surrounding referee Michael Oliver.
I was talking to Wes Morgan. It's just like, well, you better win it now, kind of thing, if you knocked us out in this fashion. And kind of had a little bit of a joke about it, because even he was like, well, it's never a penalty.
Well, it's a season-defining call, nothing short of that.
It seemed to go on forever, waiting for that penalty. It was like being dumped. That's actually the only thing I can sort of compare it to.
Leicester City have a penalty kick in the 6 minutes of injury time.
So I remember starting off very, very excited, perhaps too excited.
Here we go.
When Almunia saved it...
Knockout takes, Almunia saves!
Well, that was quite something.
Again, it's probably like 0.4 of a second, but it felt like 10 seconds.
And then saved it again.
Almunia saves again!
I remember thinking, this is incredible, so I sort of screamed, he saved it, and he saved it again, he saved the rebound.
Oh, it's a brilliant save from Almunia, a double save!
And by now, everyone in the ground is going mad. I'm really, really excited.
Oh, I don't believe this!
Whoa, what drama at the end. We're going to extra time.
Before you know it, we're kind of attacking down the right. And I'm like, I might have to start running there.
Absolutely astonishing. Now here come Watford.
I was still bothered about the penalty, sort of celebrating the penalty save. And it comes just in front of Deeney, and like, Deeney appears.
They're bursting forward, they've got a chance, they've crossed it into the box.
Hoggy knocked it back down, and as he's knocked it back down, I remember Vids was coming to try and shoot, and I was like, no, this is mine.
Here's Hogg! Deeney!
He went wild, the fans went wild, Zola went wild, and he slipped over on the side of the pitch. I went wild.
Do not scratch your eyes! You are really seeing the most extraordinary finish here!
Don't scratch your eyes, whatever that means.
Oh, they've scored! I do not believe what I've just seen!
I've lost it. One of the lads in the office later described it as a scoregasm.
Troy Deeney has scored a penalty! He scored! Oh, Troy Deeney has scored from a Leicester penalty that was saved by Almunia!
It was just amazing. And you looked around and there were supporters in tears and just so made up by what was happening, because it was incredible.
I do not believe what I've just seen here, Jeff. Watford are going to go into the playoff final.
Somehow I got my shirt back as well. That's always amazed me. I threw my shirt on the floor and no one picked it up. Everyone just ran over it, so that was quite interesting.
And then the final.
In a way, it fits in perfectly with the narrative of Watford Football Club, those nearly moments.
I felt like we'd done what Watford have done a fair bit of, which is get right to the end, do everything that you have to do, and then it just not work out.
We thought that we were being smiled upon.
We didn't turn up. I know I didn't. I was just in awe of, like, I remember it to this day. The big ball, the camera that goes down. I just remember watching that for the first 20 minutes going, wow, this is crazy to even be in a stadium like this. I remember walking out and the flame things. I was like, it's hot. You know, like little things like that, whereas if it happens now, I just carry on walking.
The crowd were flat as the teams came out. Nervousness in the crowd, which seemed to seep onto the pitch.
They were quiet as, they were quiet as. It was a weird one. And naturally from that, we wasn't great.
Everyone was gutted, particularly with an ex-Watford player scoring the goal that cost us the place.
The club where it all started for him professionally, Kevin Phillips, is put to the side.
I don't want to say we're unlucky because I felt like we could have got grip of it more, but Palace end up going through. It's just really crap, isn't it?
It's the Premier League for Crystal Palace again.
I was more emotional for not turning up than more emotional of actually losing the game. Like I let myself down. That's what pissed me off, to be honest. Yeah.
It hurt a lot of people at the club not going through in that game, and with hindsight, it was probably the right thing. It meant that we didn't go up too early.
I don't think the club would have been ready to go straight to the Premier League at that point. I think we probably would have come straight back down.
It's a club not defined by glorious failure, that would be harsh, but it's a club that is defined by nearly moments and deriving the strength from the nearly moments to push on and look at where they are now.